Today I'm going to show you how to replace a hydraulic hose on a tractor or a piece of machinery. So I've noticed on this one already that I've got a little bit of a leak right here. There's fluid leaking down onto the pedal, and so I'm going to show you how to replace that hydraulic hose. So the first thing that you want to do is make sure you know which hose is leaking, so you know which one you need to take off. So I'm going to turn the tractor on and identify which hose is leaking so we know which one to take off. I'm going to build some pressure in it to try to get it to squirt a little bit more. That way we know for sure which one it is that's faulty. There it is. Down on this side. If you can, yeah, that's okay. Okay, see it right there? You can see it coming out right there. So I'm going to cut it off. It's the second one from the top there. When you build pressure in the line like that, it'll push out and show you which one. Whoop, there it goes, popping out again. Okay, so this. Yeah, there it is. It's this second one down here. And these are compression fittings. So if you want to go over here, you can probably get a view in where I'm taking this out. So it's this second one from the top. And it looks almost like there's three different fittings in there. But what you're going to do is, it's the middle one there that you're going to back off, and that's going to relieve your compression fitting. There we go. Don't have a lot of room in between here to get in there. I'm gonna have to take this bracket off in order to get to it here. Where are we? This wrench set's all mixed around here. I wear these gloves because it's a pain in the butt to get the hydraulic fluid off of your hands. And it makes it a little cleaner for you washing up afterwards, because it's pretty much impossible to replace one of these hoses without getting fluid all over you. So okay, this bracket's off here is going to loosen these guys up so we can get to those compression fittings. Actually, I'm going to leave that bottom one in there because I've got enough exposure here to... These compression fittings do not need to be King Kong tight. Actually, you can wreck them if you do. So you're just going to remove the hose here that's bad at both ends from the valve down there coming out here in the front. And then the way that you repair or replace it is, I have 2 options or 3 options here locally. I will take this hose off and take it to some of the local hardware stores. Will rebuild them. So you take, I like to take the hose in so that they have exactly the same size piece with the same fitting sizes on each end, and they will custom rebuild it. Now, oops, that's the wrong one. It's this one. You can have it custom rebuilt like that. I think out here I pay usually $40 or $50 depending on the fittings for that. The other choice is you can go to like a Tractor Supply or Atwood's, and you can buy the hose in various lengths separate from the fittings, and you can rebuild your own. The difference and the pros and cons to that, I would say, is when you buy it from Tractor Supply or Atwood's and you have separate fittings, it's about half the price usually. But sometimes you don't have the exact length because they'll give you like a 3-foot or a 4-foot or a 2-foot. So you don't always have precise length that you want to make it fit perfectly, and sometimes that doesn't matter, so that's okay. But if you need a precise length, you might want to have it custom made. Custom made is about twice the price. The other benefit to doing it at Tractor Supply or Atwood's or your local farm and ranch supply store usually has the hoses and the fittings is if it goes bad in the future, usually it's one or the other. You got a bad hose or a bad fitting, so you might be able to just replace the fitting and save some money. But yeah, so if you want to come over here, you can see this. I'm going to take this off from the valve end here. You see this is a different type of fitting. The other thing is some of these fittings can be oops, that's a big one. Some of these fittings can be pretty expensive. So that's that was definitely tighter than it needed to be for a compression fitting. So once you get your hoses off here, you can just take this to your hardware store or anywhere that makes hydraulic fittings. Some cities have specialty hydraulic shops and stuff like that too. Or like I said, you could take it to your Tractor Supply or Atwood's or local farm and ranch store and build your own. So I'm gonna go get this swapped out and we'll put it back on. Okay, I have my hose that's been custom made because on this one I want it to fit perfectly in there. So this is the kind that they make at the shop, and you can't replace the fittings aside from the hose. If you zero in over here is an example of one that I think this was one of the last ones I redid, but I built it from like a local Tractor Supply, and you can see the fittings are there. So if the hose blows, I can pull the fitting off of that hose and replace the hose but not have to pay for the fittings. So the difference is, for example, this guy here probably cost me probably $30 or so to replace. This one here costs $64. One of the reasons is because these types of fittings are just more expensive. So those are the difference, kind of pros and cons on having it custom made versus putting it together yourself from a Tractor Supply or a Atwoods or something like that. You can also see this one's a little longer over here compared to this one. So it doesn't fit as perfectly on the angle, maybe as that one did, but it's sufficient. It's just because when you're buying the hose separately, on this one they're cutting the hose and crimping it on here to a custom length, where these only come in increments of probably 1 foot or 2 feet or whichever. So I'm going to fish this through here and we'll finish the repair here. So basically just gonna put it back together the way that we took it apart. Again, these are compression fittings, so as they thread in, you really don't need to tighten them down like super tight. And I'm going to put this bracket here back on. It's very difficult to do this without taking a bath in hydraulic oil. That's why I wear these gloves, but just kind of a pain to... I don't think I've ever replaced one without getting the fluid all over. Okay. 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 You can probably come through and see that bottom side over here. Again, pretty simple. Just putting back together the same way it came apart. Ooh, that's gonna be fun. I gotta loosen up. This is actually kind of important right here. This guy, this angle isn't gonna work on this guy. So come back over here. What I need to do now, I actually have to take this guy back apart here. And it's a good lesson just to be able to see on the video. When you've got a weird angle like this, that particular type of fitting is fixed. And so I'm going to have to loosen this end in order to be able to twist this. And then it'll be able to, I mean, I could twist it inside of here, but I don't want to kink up that hose and put pressure on that brand new hose. So here we go again, taking the bracket off. So that I can, the reason is I need to loosen this end so that it has a little bit of give here to twist out. Okay. Once I take the pressure off of it, I can turn it down here. You see there? See how it turns? So I want to get, I'm going to get this one started, and you want to get that one started, and then tighten it down. In some cases, most cases, you don't have these kind of fixed right angle fittings, and you got a little bit more flex, a little bit more grace. But in this situation, this one isn't going to be able to turn or pivot, so I have to have that flex down there. So what I'm doing is I'm fitting them both at each end, and then trying to get this guy to grab. Okay, I'm fitting them at each end, and then I'll tighten them down. That's two. Different size, huh? Once you thread it on here, it'll pivot that way, and same with this one. But while that one was tight, it wasn't able to pivot this way, and this won't be able to either. But I've got that end started, and I've got this end started, so they're both fitting up good. And I will tighten this one down, and then we'll tighten that one down. Like before. Lean on a little bit, but not too tight. And come back over here. Now we can tighten this one down. I'm going to slide this sleeve back down. Whoop. Okay. Whoop. Okay. Okay. Snug, nice and snug, but not crazy tight. Okay. I'm gonna put this bracket back on, and I'm gonna make sure that guy down there is snugged up, because I could tell afterwards, just now when I moved it, sometimes when you turn those right angles a little bit, the pivot can actually loosen a quarter turn on the fitting. So yeah, fasten this bracket back down into place, snug those two up. Okay, I'm just going to snug this one back up with these two wrenches. When I turned it here a little bit, see there, it's moving still a little, and it really should be snug. Oop, that's the wrong one. Okay, only last thing to do is turn it on and test to make sure that your fittings are all good and not leaking. Hopefully that was helpful for you to change a hydraulic hose if you ever need to on a piece of equipment or a tractor. Thank you for watching. Okay, one last thing that I want to remind you to do after you are done with everything, you don't see any leaks or anything, you want to top off your hydraulic fluid, because most of the time when you blow a hose, you're going to lose some fluid, just to keep your tractor in good working order and keep those fluids topped off. That's the last thing you need to do.